Hello, pilots. This is David, the Infinite Flight official test pilot. Welcome to the Flying Development Studio's Infinite Flight Basic Airliner Taxi and Takeoff tutorial. So today, I'm going to do just that. I'm going to show you the very basics for doing a little taxi to your runway and takeoff. Go over some speeds and things. First, we're going to set the weather up a bit. Let's have no weather. Lots of visibility. Very calm day, no wind, no turbulence, and it's warm. As you can see there, 18 Celsius, yeah, that's pretty good. Make it for noon, best visibility. Everything's nice and bright. So we're going to select our airport next, and we're going to go to Seattle. Let's go to SeaTac. Yeah, I'll start there. Okay, hit fly, and wait for the load. Shouldn't take too long, depends on your device. Calibrate. Okay, here we are. Now I'm going to start off by setting my weight and balance first thing. I'm going to simulate a basic starting flight with passengers. Yeah, 125 looks good. Give them a little more luggage. Cargo, pretty good there. I kept it all synchronized, as you can see. Fuel was a normal load. So I'm going to go to the systems by moving that page button over, and I'm going to turn on everything except the strobe lights. I'll explain the strobe lights in a little bit. Typically when you're taxiing, you don't turn your strobe lights on right away. Now to get started, depending on the aircraft, but in this particular case, the 737-800 needs some thrust to get moving. So I'm going to apply about 20% till I am finally starting to go, and then I'm going to lower that. That's good. So you lower the thrust, still have a little bit applied if you want to. Taxi speeds will vary from one airport to another in the real world, and I'm going to try and keep this as close to real world as possible, but let's remember that this is really in the spirit of having some fun with Infinite Flight, but also getting as close to the rules as we can. And a lot of the things I'm going to go over here are just, they're not black and white. There's room to wiggle. So I'm still going at about 10% thrust down this taxi corridor here, as I saw from the external view, and made sure I was going the right way. Some airports will have a set taxi speed. Typically, you want to keep it 35 knots or lower. I like to go about 20, 25, typically, in an airliner, as long as I'm all alone. But that's a whole new story. We'll get to that some other time. Yeah, good. Picking up some speed here, about 19 now. As you can see, the runway was off to my left. Just cycling through some views now. I do like that wing view. Yeah, I'm moving pretty good now. Maybe I'll do some checks here inside the cockpit. Check the spoilers here in a sec. There we go. Make sure they work. Spoilers fully armed and extended. Turn them back off. We don't want those on when we're taking off. That could be a problem. Now I'm going about 27 knots. I should probably start slowing down, or at least coast some. Once the momentum of these heavy planes start going, you can pretty much coast quite a good ways. You're not going to need thrust a lot of the time. Of course, you'll slow down, but it'll take a while. Okay, I'm almost to the point where I'm at the hold short for the runway I'm going to depart from. So I'm going to have to start thinking about where I'm going to set my flaps. Now for a 737-800, They say about 5 degrees flaps. It does depend on a number of different factors. So I choose 10 degrees myself, and I'll set that here in a sec. I just want to get off the ground faster, I guess. Okay, so this is the hold short. Excuse me. Now I turn the strobe lights on because they need to be on when you're taking off. You knew that. All right. Now I'm going to get moving, turn those brakes back off. I got my flaps set to 10 degrees. Remember, you don't have to be 10. It could be 5, could be 15 if you really wanted to. It just depends on a number of different factors: temperature, load, wind, all sorts of things. But 10 degrees, I find, just gets me off the ground perfectly, no matter. Doesn't matter what I'm set to at that setting. So I'm starting to turn here to get onto the runway. So I'll get lined up. As you can see, I've already set the altitude. I know I didn't say anything earlier, but I'm just letting you know. I set the altitude to 28,000 because that's where my final cruise will be. And that's pretty typical of most airliners. They're going to go up to about 28,000 feet or so, and that's where they'll cruise. Oftentimes, they'll start the cruise there until they burn off fuel, and then when they get lighter, they go a little higher. Depends on that plane. So I'm lining myself up. I've got my altitude set. Not worried about my vertical speed yet. Cover that in a moment. We've got to get off the ground first. Get as lined up as you can. That looks pretty good. Apply thrust. Watch your N1. See that? 70, 83, 92. You want to have that in the... I'm just going to leave it there, but you're going to want to have it in the lower 90s for the N1. Typically, that's going to be 90% thrust. N1 is your RPMs, by the way, just to briefly tell you that in case you didn't know. I have now reached my V1 rotate, and I'm pulling up. My gear is off the ground, and I'm going to bring them back up inside. Maintain a steady climb. Not going to need these flaps much longer. Just want to take a look first. All right, bring the flaps back in. You'll have a little bit of a dip when the flaps come in. The aircraft, the nose will want to drop a little. You're going to have to counter that by pulling up against it very gently to keep your climb as stable as possible. Remember, there's people on board. They don't want the nose to suddenly just drop, but we've all felt that when we were in the aircraft after the takeoff. That sudden little woo feeling when they pull back the flaps as they're just after takeoff. So I'm keeping it between 10 and 15 degrees. I'm leaving my thrust alone. It's a little high at the moment. I want to keep it under 250 knots airspeed when I'm below 10,000 feet. Again, that's not a hard and fast rule. That's just a general sort of guideline. That may become more important in other things, but that's for a different tutorial. So I'm still flying at a pretty high RPM, and that's why I'm pitching up a little bit more. Typically, it's going to be 10 degrees for a climb, but I don't want to overspeed, so I'm going to drop that throttle a little bit, pitch up a little bit more. Passengers are probably going, "What is this pilot doing?" After I get past 10,000 feet, I'm going to go back down to that page button, move over to Systems. I'll show you in a sec. I'm going to turn off the no smoking sign and the landing lights. You don't need those on, or at least the landing lights. You do not need to have those on over 10,000 feet. And after 10,000 feet, here we go. I'm going to lower my climb rate and try and hold a steady vertical speed. As you can see, I dropped my thrust to match the gentle lowering of my pitch in my climb. Still accelerating nicely at 85 thrust. Pretty good, huh? So I think I'm going to want to keep a vertical speed around 2,500, but I did set that, but I'm going to try and match it first. Oh, yeah, I forgot. Turn off no smoking. Turn off the landing lights. Now I've hit the autopilot, and bang, go. I am now cruising up to 28,000 feet. That's all there is to it. I know. Made it look easy. But you can do it. Everybody can do it with some practice, and I'm sure you'll be much better than me in no time. Thanks for watching, and may the skies be ever in your favor.